Hey everybody, it's Funny here once again. Hope you're doing well. Today we're rambling about the Industrial Music Electronics Kermit Mark III. They described it as a quad modulation aid. I would say there's few things that it doesn't do, and it sounds like this. Okay, Kermit Mark III, so I've done a lot of videos about different modulation sources over the years. I did one where I basically mocked up what my dream modulation source would be in the dream LFO. I guess that one was more specific. Kermit goes way beyond that. Lots of people suggested Kermit at that time because it does a lot of those things that it says on the tin there, and to be honest, they're right. I just kind of strayed away from it because of the high cost, but it really does all those things that I really wanted in that video, including clock sync modulation, onboard VCAs, thank you kindly. I don't know why both of those things are so hard to come by in modulation sources, but here they are together on the Kermit, which I genuinely really love. Screen, not in the mock-up on the thing that I was talking about before, but is here, and I really love it. It just makes like things that are impossible to present, and I'll give you an example here. If we hold this down, we'll click on the oscillator to go in. That's basically the big button combo of the Kermit. Hold the encoder and select the channel you want to make changes to, but I don't have to remember what the parameters are and what the values are based on color, based on, I don't know, carrier pigeon or telegraphing it in some way or having to have the manual to make simple changes. It's all presented to you in context here, and I just like, anyway, every episode, if you stamp your tafony bingo card yelling about screens, and my appreciation of them is on there again. Now, it is pretty small. I get why people have a hard time seeing them and they get frustrated about that, but for me, I just like, this is so much better than having to guess what like purple means for a LFO. So anyway, on that note, let's jump into it here. I'm going to go through the panel now. If we get out of the preset mode, I'll talk about the preset mode first. So Industrial Music Electronics in the Mark III series has this preset managing thing where they basically, all of them, I believe, have 5 presets. It might be more, but basically all of them have preset recall and CV control over the presets. And I love that in the Piston Honda. I love the idea of like wave morphing and then wave morphing my presets of wave morphing. I just love that sound. When it comes to Kermit, I don't necessarily see myself like scanning through the presets for CV. I see it more of like setting up my modulation source and going from there. But hey, if you have a use for that, shout out in the comments. I can see where you would want to create presets for like a live set, have it all ready to go, and then you change the song and say, okay, instead of where I had an LFO for a slow evolving thing, change my preset to the next one. Now I have envelopes making it snappy or something like that. I can see that. I don't see the CV scanning. And there's lots of things in this video too. I'm just going to say it's a delicate dance trying to make these videos, especially around modulation sources, where do you want it to be insanely deep? Do you want to make it 20 hours long? Or you try and just like talk about the things you love about it in your own use case and roll forward with it. So I'm going to try and do that. And that's going to include skipping some things like the internal modulation. You can do insane amounts of stuff here, but they present it all in a way that's like, I don't know, it never gets in the way. Like you can ignore the modulation modulation matrix and just like roll with it on the surface, which is what I intend to do, right? So there's like a whole bunch of depth there, but you don't need to unpack all of that to get to the core features, if that makes sense, right? What I want this to do is basically do some clocked modulation, easy utility to change up and do anything that I need to do in the modulation realm, be it envelopes, LFOs, even oscillators too, in a simple, straightforward, easy to recall with this button combo way that I really appreciate. So on that note, tap tempo in, you'll see there's a BPM on the screen right here. Sorry if the screen is super small on your screen, but you can tap that in, which I might just do for the video, but I honestly would be, we'll go to 132.2 BPM. I'd honestly be setting this clock 99.9% of the time, but today, just for simplicity, maybe we'll tap that in. We'll see where this video goes. Then you have 4 channels. The first 2 have more controls, including amplitude, waveform, morphing. You can upload your own wavetables to it using the SD card. There's frequency, and they do a million different things. I think the best way to demonstrate this, though, is to just go using Oscillator A. They call it. It's not always an oscillator. It can be envelope. It can be all these different things. I think the best way is to just go through all the different modes and explore them. So I'll show on the screen right now this super simple patch that the Kermit is going to be controlling 2 modules. We have the Banshee Reach, analog VCO, Pony VCF, which is ladder filter, with CV control for the filter cutoff and a VCA built in. So that way I can just like make it incredibly apparent what the modulation is doing, because it's going to sweep the filter and control the VCA. So it's just like bare bones, right? Might not be a very exciting patch, but I just really want to demonstrate what's actually going on rather than focus on how interesting it sounds sonically. So on that note, here comes the sound. I'm scoping the first channel, channel A, and you'll see there's an LFO running right now, and, you know, opening the filter and VCA. So, wow, basically. So now I'll show you the macro that you basically got to remember. If you hold this down, you can see the modulation matrix. Like I said, I don't plan to use this too often, at least not in this video, but it is there. And then when you press on the button, pull up the settings for the first oscillator. So there's a couple different types and then a couple different modes. If you go into the type, we are in LFO mode right now. There's also oscillator. So we're at audio rate right now. You're not listening to the oscillator itself. It's just modulating our VCA at audio rate. So we're getting amplitude modulation. Envelope, I don't have a trigger in right now, so you won't see anything going on. There's also random. We're going to go through all these. So we're going to go through all of these, hopefully with just a hair of depth today. We'll see what happens. Back to LFO. I nudge the frequency knob, so we'll bring that back down. It's just free running in the first mode. And if we get out of here, I'm trying to remember how we do that. If we tap out of here, you'll see this free running LFO is displayed in pitch through hertz. So that's basically your speed. If we go back in, we'll hit mode and then go through a bunch of different modes. So I am going to externally clock it just so we can get this up to 140 BPM. I'll come in now and we'll edit it again. I'll go to reset LFO, so it's resetting based on the clock. I believe this will actually chop off your waveform, so I have like a smooth sine wave right now, but I believe if you have it clocked in a certain way, it'll actually like hard reset it, which is definitely something I don't want to do, but we'll get into there. We have tempo, LFO, this is what I want. And then you have back to main LFO. I want tempo LFO. So you also get voltage range, super appreciated. And something I want to say on the Kermit too is the default right now, 12 volts, actually super hot. Like sometimes I think often you kind of expect 5 volts to come out of your modulation sources. Just be aware of that. But obviously we have our amp, we have that VCA on board. We have our CV assignments. I'm probably not going to do much of that modulation on here, but it's basically done through a button combo of holding the CV assignment and moving the knob. I am going to avoid that for today. X model I was talking about before with our internal modulation. So back out of here, and now you'll see on this screen our tap has turned into a multiplier, so we're going at double speed or 1 time. And I love that. It's just a clock divider, right? I don't know why this is so difficult to come across on other modules, but again, I don't envy music manufacturers at all, because trying to fit the needs of all of us weirdos online is going to be a real challenge. So we'll go super slow if we want to, or up to audio rate almost. Well, not quite, but yeah. I love that. So you hear our filter VCA controlling, super straightforward. And I am going to take this opportunity now, though, to demonstrate the waveform scanning. So another thing I should point out, I should have pointed this out at the beginning. The knobs on this one that I bought used are messed up. The person really messed me around when I bought it. So shout out to you. That was the most insane reverb interaction I've ever had. But we can morph through the wave tables that were imported on the SD card, and there are some squares in there. It's all stepped, and there are some controls over it that will apply or be more noticeable in the audio side, so we'll get to that. But yeah, you could CV scan over this. That's actually you know, one of the first things that comes to mind, but some performative modulation on here just by way of noodling with the wave shape knob. Yeah. I mean, genuinely. And it is pretty high fidelity. You don't see any like stepping unless the wave shapes are stepped themselves, which I believe is intentional. But if I come in here and we go into there, there is a character circuit, so it can be clean, no morphing, 12-bit, and then you can like bit reduce it too. This is the deprived one. So if you want it to get into like step modulation territory without like using sample and hold, there's that to it too. That sort of thing will get more interesting at audio rates though. So on that note, let's get into oscillator mode. I'm going to take my CV out. So we're listening to oscillator 1 now. Change my scope up here. There's a bunch of different modes here, the most basic being oscillator. There's voltage range. Again, internal mods, we're going to skip this. But I want to point out the character on here now. So no morph. I'm changing the pitch here. Sorry, it's my fault. 12-bit. See, we can totally bit reduce it. So this is deprived. Notice how our wave shapes are sort of jumping, stepping through. Right, I'll go back to clean for now. Get out of here so we can see our wave morphing. And we've got our sine wave into saw, into that stepped shape. And again, you can do whatever you want here. Your piston Honda, probably a little jealous, but it doesn't sound as good. There's something special in the piston Honda, and I can't put my finger on it. I think it's the interpolation of the wavetables is a little harsher, that it doesn't do the things that most wavetable synths do to sort of, I don't know, smooth out the wave shapes. Anyway, that is the clean mode. Let's get into the other ones. So that's the regular oscillator mode. There's this unison mode, which adds some detuned. And, like, give me my super sauce, so let's get out of here. I think it's just two saws, but like, yeah. Open my filter a little bit more, because I'm not modulating the filter at all. I'm like, yeah, genuinely. Like, I remember the first time I owned this, which is right when I got into Eurorack, I found this super confusing, and now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I think if you want something to do a whole bunch of different stuff, don't sleep on the oscillator section, because it's very useful. This is code scan. My understanding is it kind of creates a noise oscillator by... You could also use the VCA on here. I guess you could do audio rate. You could do AM here. I understand it's actually like reading the code that's in the firmware, but you can also waveform scan in here. It's just kind of a crazy noise oscillator, and I love that. Tracks volt per octave as well. I'm not doing that just yet, but we should. Here, let's throw that on there. And it goes. Pitch noise is awesome. Now that we have our pitch going, let's go into unison mode. Filter all the way open. Like, have I demonstrated that this is viable? Because it's a genuinely great oscillator. Okay. Before I get lost in the sauce on that all day, we have an envelope. And notice it is firing based on the pitches that I'm sending it, but if we send it gates, you can do gated repeat as the current mode. It also has tempo envelope, so if we clock it instead, it's just going to fire. I need to adjust my scope to get that in there. So you can just have it firing clock synced envelopes. I'm curious, this isn't an ADSR stage in this one. It just has waves that are affecting it, but I guess they're just sort of the same sort of oscillator principle, but firing. as opposed to going. Now, you're not hearing it right now because it's not in audio rate, so let's put our patch back to what it was. In comes my analog VCO, CV in now. So I think we want to kind of like make a decay envelope like that, yeah. And there's a way to add attack to this. How do we do that? So we have trigger one shot. I'm not sending triggers in. If I do it here, the clock directly will trigger them. If you want to sort of have all your other stuff going on and like use that, maybe gated repeat. So if this will just fire as often as a gate is high, basically. Interesting. You could do fills that way if you had like a pressure plate or something. Definitely not what I would go to the Kermit for, but again, super appreciate it. Here's what I would go to the Kermit for, though. Random sources. And in my setup, in my actual use of the Kermit so far, I've been reserving the random sources for the last two outputs because you don't have as many controls. I can have my LFOs with more hands-on control with the amplitude and the wave shape. Then the random is kind of just fixed at the output at the end. So there's a bunch of different types of random. We have step random, tempo random, smooth random. So instead of stepped voltage, it's just kind of Krell patch drifting around. Then we have step random again, tempo rand, smooth random. So that's all of them. I won't go through the other settings again. Let's get over to sample and hold. Now I'm not sending anything in, but if I did, maybe we'll use this opportunity to do a internal patch. Wow. So I'll do tempo, sample, and hold so I don't have to send it triggers. It's just going to sample and hold. Wow, I know, it's in the name. But this is the LFO from C. I think you could actually do this with the mod matrix without having to use a patch cable. For me, I love the simplicity of just wiring the freaking thing up. That is the tempo, sample, and hold. Not sending any triggers, and that's it. Okay, Kermit, I always avoided it because it's super expensive, but if you can find one used or on sale or something, maybe hold out for it, although I was holding out forever for mine. But does really all of the modulations that I could want in a way that's really accessible, not a headache to access, so I really appreciate it for that. What else can you say? It's also an amazing oscillator, so just like, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge IME fan. I just like love the screen and the workflow and everything just clicks with me. And it may not click with you, but it's just... this is how I'm wired, I think. Anyway, I'm Tafony. Thanks so much for watching. Let's do some jams here, and I'll talk to you soon. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.